Hey everybody, this is Nicole, and this is my Turning Points presentation for human development. I'm not gonna lie, this was kind of hard to think about what I wanted to talk about, so I did finally decide on three turning points. And so the first one I'm going to talk about is my parents divorced. So in elementary school, I was doing really great. I was involved. I loved to read and draw. I was playing all these different sports. I was even a cheerleader in like pee wee football for a while. And I had a ton of friends and I was pretty outgoing. I definitely was a talker. But when I was 7, things changed. My parents decided to separate, and by the next year, they divorced. And so, obviously, this is a pretty big change for somebody that's in elementary school. Kind of after this happened, I noticed that I was starting to slip in school. I used to love to go, and you know, things were so crazy that I didn't even want to go to school anymore. Not only did I just not want to go and have like a social aspect of my life, but even, reading and doing my homework and paying attention in class were just things that I didn't find myself enjoying and wanting to do anymore. And so in our text, it talks about when growing up, a variety of internal and environmental factors can lead to a varying degrees of developmental speed and level. And it talks about how the environment that you grow up in can affect you and how you developed. And talking about instability in an environment can affect motivational and emotional factors, including motivation to achieve and anxiety, which I definitely think I was experiencing at this point, specifically the motivation to achieve. I would love to go to school, and I remember one of my teachers, we had this poster board where you would put stars by your name when you did something. And I remember I would love to collect all these stars, and I would always tell my parents about how many stars I had. And I can remember not caring about that anymore and feeling super anxious in social settings, which was something I had never experienced. As a kid, I was always outgoing, always talkative, probably over talking to strangers. And this really shifted, and I noticed that I was just super anxious all the time, even around people that I had known growing up, and teachers that I loved, and family members that I loved and knew. And it was really difficult. And I think, as we'll see later on, things did get better, but I think it's important to, when you're looking back on your life, and especially when I'm doing these turning points and looking back on the turning points of my life, that the divorce was a really difficult situation. It was really hard. But now that I'm 22 and I'm an adult and I kind of have a life of my own, looking back on that situation, I think it was a really good learning experience. And I have a really great relationship with my parents now, and that was never an issue. And so I'm pretty lucky to have great parents. And I think that I would much rather have them divorced and be happy than to have stayed together and have been upset or miserable with each other. And so I definitely think it turned out for the greater good, but I think this definitely affected at least my motivation in school and just my overall development socially. But things did change. When I turned 13, my sister gave birth to my nephew Sawyer, and I adored him endlessly. I still do. And as I got older, I would babysit and I would watch him while my sister was at work, and we bonded. We became really close. We're still really close to this day. And I really attribute, because of him, learning responsibility and being that role model or just this older person who was watching over him. I realized that I had someone else to take care of, in the sense where, he was looking to me and asking me questions. And, we spent so much time together that I did feel kind of like a role model to him. And this really, really kind of set me on a different trajectory, which I never really thought about until this project. But thinking back to our text, it talks about how self-concept and identity can play a really important role in transition from adolescence to adulthood. And, being 13, it's your first year as a teenager, you're not really a kid. And, going on from here, you're a teenager. And I was growing up and I wasn't necessarily thinking of myself and my identity as, oh, well, I'm the kid whose parents are divorced. I started to change and go, oh, I'm a sister and I'm an aunt and I'm a role model and I'm a friend and, I have responsibility. And, because of my nephew, I began to realize that I had a responsibility as a role model and that I was getting older, but I also had a responsibility to my sister and my family and, to make them proud and to be the best that I could. And, I remember at this point, really found myself caring more about academics. I got caught back up in school because at this point I wasn't trying my best and I didn't really care. But after Sawyer and kind of this realization I had, I really began to put a lot more effort into school, which luckily that I did. Now I'm in college and it was a great decision. But our text also talks about a coherent and integrated self-image and how this gives direction to the future. So I think this shift in how I viewed myself really gave me direction for my future. I wouldn't obviously have gone to college and taken academics so seriously. And so my nephew being born was probably the best thing that could have happened to me at this time. And I really attribute that to getting back into school and finding enjoyment in things and identifying in much more positive, optimistic, healthier things. And so, lastly, my friends. I made friends with these two girls back in elementary school, actually, before my parents had divorced. I've known these two girls since I was in first grade. Their names are Natalie and Noelle. I've known them for all my life. After the divorce, I kind of fell out with them for a little bit, and we would periodically would talk and kind of an off and on again thing. We would have class, but when we got to freshman year, so I'm 14 or 15, we really reconnected and started to become closer. And they ended up inviting me to their church and they ended up reintroducing me to God. I grew up with going to church, both my parents were Christians and, you know, I just grew up in that sphere, but I don't really think I had a relationship with God in the way that I do now, in the right way. And, I knew him, but I didn't know him. I didn't have a relationship or a connection. And because of them, I am the Christian that I am today. I still go to Bible study with them, and we still have our weekly, Zoom Bible studies. And whenever I'm home, I go to church, and it's my home church. And they are responsible for me finding my faith. And, that's become that has become the most important thing in my life. And my friends taught me through this whole experience that I need to find my identity through Christ and trust in Him first above all else. Our textbook talks about how self-esteem encompasses, everything and, social and emotional domains. And I necessarily wasn't hanging out with the people that were the best for me. And, emotionally, I was definitely still scarred by my experiences. But being able to find my identity in Christ just totally changed my life. And it talks about how the development of self concept is influenced by socialization processes within major domains like family and peers and school. And so, because of my friends, and I was also having these open conversations with my family about my, revitalized faith. And this really brought my self esteem from, oh, I'm somebody from a divorced home, or, I'm somebody that's from a broken home, and kind of changed it to, I'm this new person. I'm a daughter of Christ, and I have these amazing friends, and I have all these amazing opportunities and this amazing family. And, through my friends, I really found my identity through Christ, instead of other people or my situation. And I felt really happy and content. And this has lasted since, all through high school, which I'm so grateful for, to be able to have had such great friends and such great community. And looking back at the beginning of my turning points, talking about, being 7 and 8 and looking at, my divorced family and, coming full circle kind of to now, you think about all the things that had to happen for you to be here. And I think without my situation and what I had gone through, I don't think I would have such a strong relationship with God. And I also don't think I would see myself or my identity as being through Him instead of being through my situation or through what other people thought of me. And that has truly changed my life. And I am so eternally grateful for my two friends. They are like sisters to me. And yeah, I really attribute this to them. And I definitely think meeting them was definitely a part of the plan. And I'm so grateful that God had put them in my path too. But yeah, so those were my turning points. Yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody else's presentation. And yeah, it's been a really fun class. So thank you.